What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Scouting Combine here on the Fire Reason Sports Network. I'm your co-host Hussam Patel. I'm finally back, and you guys have seen a lot of my co-host Eric Smith doing a lot of the run game breakdowns, the offensive line breakdowns, the last 2 weeks as well. So, Eric, take it away. How has it been these last 2 weeks? Taking a look at this Dolphins offensive line and the offensive performance in the passing and the run game these last 2 weeks.
Yeah, so I mean, as you know, you've seen with the games live, there's been a lot of up and a lot of down with it. The running game obviously hasn't bounced back to where we had seen it earlier this season, but there's been some encouraging stuff that there's been, right? I don't think it's that far from turning back into a productive run game, and thankfully, now that two is back, we've had the productivity in the pass game that's been able to balance that out so that it's not, like it was at those first couple of games that Tua was out where we didn't run the ball well, didn't pass it well, and everything looked ugly. At least we're still able to find a way to be competitive and win some games here late in the season.
Of course, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the run game woes up against this Jets defense and see how it's going to fare up against the Texans defense as well with their pass rushers and run stoppers and Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. Similar type of scheme from Anthony Weaver and D'Amico Ryans. Just they have some differences in the types of coverages they run in the pass game, but we're primarily going to be taking a look at the run game to see if they can potentially get back on track. The other big thing with the run game is the loss of Austin Jackson. We're going to take a look at some plays that Kendall Lamb has done on the outside and inside tackles as well. And then we're going to take a look at the difference between him and Austin Jackson, especially if they run nearby Austin Jackson and nearby Kendall Lamb to see the differences and the types of runs and the play calls. So let's go ahead and get right into the film. This is one of the few plays. So we are using NFL Pro. Now, the Dolphins are primarily an outside zone running team. They're going to be running outside the tackles. We filter it out to take out the run stuffs. And even when we filtered it out to take out the run stuff, they did gain minimal yardage in the run game. We're going to take a look and see what happened. And there's a lot of misconceptions that the offensive line cannot run block when they are a decent to good enough run blocking team. What Eric and I are going to show you is that it's a lot of the playmakers such as Jonnu Smith, Durham Smythe, Alec Ingold, Tyreek Hill, Malik Washington that aren't necessarily physical enough to make these types of run blocks in between the tackles and outside tackles as well. All right, here we go. We're going to go ahead and run the first play. This is a Jalen Wright left end play for 2 yards. We're going to go ahead and run it. All right, we'll stop right here. We'll take a look at what the offensive line is doing. They're all looking to get up to the second level to take care of the linebackers and corners. But you have 1, 2, 3, 4 defensive linemen already breaking the plane on the line of scrimmage that are looking to impact the play overall. When you see this in the film room, Eric, when you're watching college or even the NFL, is this by design, or is this not a good look at all for the type of blocking scheme that they're playing up against the defensive front?
No, this is a good look to start the play. I think that if we look at the end zone angle from, I think we'll see that Teron Armstead maybe didn't get out to the greatest angle here to get to the widest second level defender. Jonnu and Alec Ingold should be working to combo through that defensive end up to that safety that's there. Teron should be trying to get out to that number 58, I think it is. Looks like, okay, so safety bails out. So Teron is now going for the middle linebacker, right? Safety bails out. He's no longer part of that blocking surface. So Jonnu and Alec Ingold are working up through that outside linebacker. And then it kind of creates a numbers advantage for the Dolphins in the sense that both Brewer and Armstead can now aim for that linebacker. You've got Tyreek coming in, and then you got Ingold leading around the end there. Unfortunately, neither Teron Armstead or Aaron Brewer are able to get to um, is that number
Number
44?
44. Yep.
Yeah, he had a really good game against us. He really ran sideline to sideline really well. You can see a little indecision from Armstead there.
Mhm.
I think that probably that say we've talked about this in the past, that those late shifts by the defense can throw off assignments. I think that's what happened here. That based on this look right now, right, Armstead would be going to number 58 in this blocking scheme. But once that safety backs out, right, everything technically could could
Right
bump
there. Yep.
over one, right? So now technically Armstead could go to 44, but I think because Brewer's still going there, that creates some indecision with Armstead. Brewer's not able to get there. Armstead's undecided, and he's able to scrape over the top. So that's, like I said, we've talked about this a lot. There's just those little things on those late defensive shifts that we're getting some indecision, especially with the second level blocks, where we're not getting guys onto those defenders. But those are the
All right.
kind of things that we're close to popping some big plays.
So it's something that defensives are noticing a little bit on film where if they do those late shifts, if they think it's a pass or a run play, whichever one they want to guess, they feel like they can impact the run game more so than the passing game. Like the issue last season was they're doing the late shifts and it's impacting the passing game. But now it's more so they're doing the late shifts on early downs when the Dolphins usually run for it and unsuccessfully. Um, they're able to stop this run game and they're forcing the Dolphins to pass the ball a lot until was able to kill them over the middle of the field in the flat, short yardage, and screens as well. All right, next play is also a Jalen Wright run for 5 yards. They're in a pistol formation. Look right here. Durham Smythe motions out, and it's a pitch. And Robert Jones could not get up to Jamin Sherwood, who is really good sideline to sideline. He's a safety converted. He's a former safety converted to linebacker right here. We'll take a look at the speed one more time. Motion to Tyreek. You kind of get the sense right here that Julian Hill comes out of his stance much early, and he could have been called for a false start. So that's something to note. That's something to watch.
Yeah, I really like this play design of using the tight end to block that defensive tackle there, because it does allow the guard to get out quicker. I mean, obviously with Rob Jones being not the greatest athlete, he's not able to get out there.
He takes a hand on number 21 instead of climbing. Technically, he's up already at the second level, and he's engaging the first blocker that he sees.
Right, and had he been able to, get a little better angle on 21 there, get some outside leverage and hold that, then Durham could have climbed. He could have been the
Right
one
here.
to seal number 44. Yep. But, because Jones is not able to get him, then Durham has to take 21, which leaves number 44 running free again. And I mean, you got, and obviously tough block for Jones there, didn't make the block, but at the same time, I'd like to see a running back that could, make something happen there too. So that,
now, do you think they need more athletic interior offensive linemen, or the running backs? From what I've seen on film, specifically from Devon Achane, he's not reading the holds well compared to last year, and I think it has to do with the types of runs Mike McDaniel is calling recently.
yeah, I can't put my finger on why Achane does not seem to be reading it as well, because for me last year, I really felt like that was one of his strengths. I mean, obviously everybody knows he's got the long speed. He demonstrated the contact balance really well, but his vision last year was what I thought really set him apart. And there's just been a lot of plays this year that I did not feel that he was reading it the right way. So, I mean, more athletic linemen is always a great thing if you're not sacrificing power for it. But there are opportunities for the running backs to help them out as well.
Yep. See, like this play, We'll head over to the end zone angle here on this out chain run that he tries to bounce outside. Okay. You have Tyreek Hill motioning out. It shifts the defense over, pretty much over to the left side. You're trying to get leverage and positioning to see where the linebackers are. You get another motion, and you feel like a motion like this, you may want to try and pitch it over to the outside where you have less defenders, and all Achane has to do is bounce this all the way to the outside as much as he can. But he runs towards the numbers, right? He runs towards the numbers where the Dolphins blockers are. We see Patrick Paul get up to the second level, Aaron Brewer get up to the second level. Robert Jones is trying to stonewall his guy, and Tyreek Hill, he's trying to do a back block right here. And you got to give Tyreek Hill a little bit of credit, man. 5'10", not the most physically imposing guy, but he's still making his impact felt in the blocking game where he's getting his hands on defenders and trying his best to not let them move as much as he can.
Yeah, he's definitely had some good rests, especially against defensive backs where you can see him really being physical with them. Would have liked to see him be a little more physical with the defensive lineman having the back turned to him there, but I get Tyreek not wanting to, maybe poke the bull too much there.
But is this something where instead of having Tyreek Hill block where they could get a bigger guy, instead of Tyreek Hill on this side of the ball, he could be on the other side, and you could put up a guy like I mean, I guess you could put Julian Hill there. You could put Alec Ingold, but who else do they have personnel-wise that can make this sort of block on Michael Clemens to hold him down so that way Robert Jones can actually hold his guy? Because Robert Jones does not hold his guy right here, and it's the reason why the play gets a bit blown up. Same with Patrick Paul. Patrick Paul is trying to climb up to the second level. He just can't get his hands on him.
Yeah, I mean, for Paul, I think that he just gets a little too hesitant there as opposed to attacking the outside. If that defender goes to the inside of him, Paul can just kind of flip his hips and seal him there. Rob
And
Jones
that's his pretty much first game with a lot of reps. Like, you got to give him a little bit of credit where credit is due. This is his first game where he's playing 20 plus snaps.
Yeah, I was very pleased with Paul's performance from last week. Obviously not a perfect game. There's stuff to clean up, but there was also some really good reps where you say, if he can find that consistently, like, we're really going to have a good one there.
Yeah, like, this is one of those reps where you're like, I can see what he's trying to do, but this is probably something, what I watched on film, like, dang, if he could have gotten his hands on his man a little bit more, he made the block on the corner on this motion right here. Tyreek Hill could have had a touchdown right here, but we're going to watch this play one more time. This corner is sprinting right here, man.
Yeah, I mean, I did a lot on this one on Twitter, going back and forth with people that I just, like, I get what people are saying, but
I mean, I said it myself too. If Paul blocked him right here, it could have been a touchdown, but you got to take a look at what this guy is. This guy's a 6'6", 6'7", 340 pounds? Is he 340 or 330?
Somewhere in that range. Is big as hell either way.
Yeah, he's a behemoth, man. Like, you can't expect that big of a guy to be that quick.
And look where he started. That was number 21. Was it 21 or was it the next guy over?
It was the
next guy over. It was
the next guy over right here.
It was number the guy right on the edge of the screen.
He had a clear sprint lane, man.
That's what I mean. Like, the fact that he made it the whole way over without running into any traffic naturally is just insane.
And do you think Tyreek Hill could have potentially cut inside a little bit?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think that's, again, an opportunity there that, we put a lot on the offensive line in terms of that stuff, but Tyreek either one has to be able to trust his speed and not have that little hesitation and just beat him to the corner, or he's got to be able to use his block there. That little hesitation there gave him gave that defensive back the opportunity to make that play. You know, I feel like when you get Tyreek into as much space that was there with or without Paul touching that defensive back, you know, I feel like you should be able to get more than 6 yards out of a play like that.
Mhm. All right, once again, they're in pistol formation near midfield. You can see a lot of people crowded up at the box. Another outside pitch. We'll take a look at it one more time. Patrick Paul tries his best right here to climb up, but he gets chipped by the defensive lineman, not allowing him to get this guy up
Yeah,
on the second level. And it's
yeah,
just
and we saw
a
this a
level
few
of muddy
times in the
play right
game.
here.
Yeah, we saw that happen a few times, but they had one once earlier in the game with Teron Armstead as well. That the way that the Jets were lining up in that gap when they had that flexed wide receiver there, and the defensive end was lined up inside of it, and the defensive end was crashing. So I mean, they were kind of giving up the edge in a sense because the defensive end slanting inside is going to make it an easier block on Malik Washington. But the consequence of that is that he's able to get hands into Paul, and Paul's not able to climb to number 36. That's where he's trying to get. So now with Paul unable to get to 36, now that becomes Ingold having to be your fixer. He's the one that's got to clean that up, right? And then it just muddies it to the outside there. And I don't know
So
how that works because in my opinion, and I discussed this with Kyle Krabs, like there should be an option there. And we've seen the tackles pull outside on these same crack toss concepts. There should be an option for the tackle where they can make that decision, right? If I'm looking at this as
it's like
Patrick
he wants
Paul
to go
right
straight
now,
up outside here instead of pulling into the inside, then trying to climb up to the second level.
right?
He
He's supposed
tries
to
to go
loop around
outside.
Washington,
Yeah.
but I don't know if that's the way the play design is or whether it's a rigid play design in the sense that they're telling the tackle with the play call
Mhm.
whether they can loop around Washington on that or whether it's a direct path like he
So
tries to
look
take
what
there.
happens here on this left side. All right, you're gonna get Paul. He's trying to go outside, but his hands gets right onto him. Aaron Brewer, he's trying to come up and take on number 56, and he doesn't. He can't. He's not able to fully stonewall his guy. He's not able to move him out of place. He tries his best to, but the defender, he's able to get hands on A-Chain and make a play potentially, or just impact the play where there's no hole for Devon A-Chain to go to. Now, again, people are going to blame this on the offensive line, but you take a look at the play call and the play design. Uh, is there a way where they can change up the blocking scheme of some of these crack tosses? I know you mentioned about changing up the tackle responsibilities, going outside in or inside out, but is there a different way they can run this where they take a look at these defensive fronts, they take a look at the film early in the first quarter and say, okay, we're seeing this on film. Now we're going to adjust. Is there a way to differentiate or run it a different way?
Well, yeah, I mean, even so, listen, if you take that back, right, and if Paul loops around Malik Washington here, like we've seen them do, right, then as Patrick Paul is getting around the edge, he's going to be the one taking number
Right here.
36.
Right here.
Yep. And then so
Because all Devon
if
Achin has to do
Paul,
is he needs to follow Paul pretty much, right?
yeah,
If
and
he's able to loop around, he's able to
If
follow
Paul is
Paul.
able to get to 36, keep it going a little bit, right? If we get to just another second and roll it forward just a little more, right here. So
If
if
this is Paul,
Paul, if that's Paul, and then you have Ingold coming in,
on this
Ingold
side,
is
you have
now the
Ingold
one.
right here, Paul
Yeah,
here.
right. Either way, whether Ingold is leading to number 4 or he's picking up Brewer's guy that he wasn't able to get before, and Brewer's getting 44. Like that, losing that extra body on the outside there is basically just death to this play.
So it sounds like they need to change their scheme just a little bit. They need to tweak it up just a little bit on the outside. Uh, Look, they've had a lot of success running to the outside, but they're running more so in between the tackles more, Eric. And do you know why?
I think a big part of it is whether it's inexperience or just not trusting Paul on the edge yet. And I think he did some stuff in this game to earn that trust, but also just having Lamb on the other side. We've talked about what you lose going from Lamb to, or from Austin Jackson to Lamb on the
Mhm.
right side. That takes away definitely some ability to run to the outside. And, if you still want to be able to run the ball, then you got to find other ways to do it. And that's why
Like if
I think
we
that,
if we take a look running to the right side nearby Liam Eichenberg and Kendall Lamb, we'll be able to take a look at why running in between the tackles. Motion Malik Washington in between gets a little bit of yardage. And we'll take a look at the end zone view, end zone angle of this play. All right, you have Kendall Lamb right here. You have Liam Eichenberg right here. Malik Washington is going to motion out, and he's going to come back and block towards the inside.
yeah, so I think you got to get more on that double team there with Lamb and Eichenberg. I mean, Lamb obviously loses ground
Mm-hmm.
on this play, but a big part of that is that Eichenberg is just leaving too soon on that. There's no reason for him. This is a 1st and 10 play, so it's not like we're in a rush to get to the second level. We just need a good solid run. So I feel like Eichenberg really should have stayed on that combination block a bit longer before climbing to the linebacker.
All right, let's see if we can find an outside zone play over to the right end, left tackle, left tackle, left tackle. Nope. Maybe a run stuff that could have been over to the right, left tackle, right end, right here for negative yards. This is on the goal line right here.
Oh, I'm in the middle of a podcast.
All righty, here we go. In the goal line, you have Janu, Julian Hill, Tyreek Hill, Kendall Lamb, and Liam Eichenberg on the right side. Let me go ahead and slow down the speed. Yep. All right, you have Tyreek Hill motioning out. Linebackers on Tyreek. And it's another pitch.
Yeah, and this is what we were talking about earlier with Paul. This is where they do pull the tackle and get him to the outside. And I think that this is a way, right? You lose the point of attack blocking going from Lamb or from Jackson to Lamb. I keep getting that backwards, but Lamb is still a good athlete and can move pretty well in space, and that's what we're seeing on this one. It ends up getting called back because of Paul being set too far back.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the crack toss that we're looking for, that we're able to seal that defensive end from the outside. There is that Julian
Right
Hill
by
on
Julian
58.
Hill.
Yes, we got a little bigger body there. If that was a wide receiver, Lamb probably never gets out, but
Mm-hmm.
Julian's able to get a nice seal there. We get Lamb outside, and we're able to get Lamb onto a safety or corner out
Mm-hmm.
here.
Yeah, right here, this play is dead because Liam
And that
kind of falls down.
he does, and that look, not a good block, but that is a really good play by. Once a hard block. He's almost a full defender over, or a full offensive lineman over, a full gap. And look at the technique that defensive lineman uses, where he's opening that inside arm and swimming over Liam, and
Mm-hmm.
then his ability to scrape and pursue down the line of scrimmage and make the play. So, this is one in my grading, right? Liam gets a 0 for this. Liam missed this block, but, I don't feel that it should take away from the fact that this was a great play by the defensive lineman. And sometimes, the defense gets paid too. And, that was a really good play.
Mm-hmm. All right, 3rd and 1, A-chain to the left tackle once again in the low red zone for -3 yards. they're trying their best to run in the red zone, and it's just not working out for them at all. And we're seeing the results why. It's either bad blocking, schematics, and they're missing on the little things. Like, what happens here, man? He runs to
So
the left end. Sherwood just shoots through the gap.
I mean that well, and what happens there is that you're asking Tyreek Hill to block the defensive end in a short yardage goal line situation. So obviously Tyreek's not going to be able to do that. So Ingold, who's coming in that short motion, instead of being able to get to Sherwood, he's got to again become the fixer, and he's got to take care of Tyreek's guy, and that means that we end up with somebody unblocked, right? If Ingold goes straight to 44, like I think was the original design, then 56 blows up the play because you're asking Tyreek Hill to block on the edge there, and this was just poor play design. This was something that they've got no problem burning timeouts any other time during a game. So you should have either burned a timeout here to get out of that, or Tua should have checked out of it. That was just one that I felt was a dead play from the beginning because we're just asking Tyreek to do too much there.
All right, here we go. No run stuff right here on the right side. We have Austin Jackson here. Okay. First quarter, first and 10, Devon Achane right guard for 7 yards. And we can see where we have now Liam and AJ instead of Liam and Kendall Lamb. They're running under center. You can see pretty much Austin Jackson holds his ground right there. And this is pretty much a successful run play. They get more than 60% of the yardage needed on first down.
And that's just, it's so underrated how big of a difference that little bit of movement he gets. I mean, he does get solid movement here, but if you watch the difference of this versus some of the outside zones with Kendall Lamb, and look at Aaron Brewer's block on this one. He's reaching a front side one technique, and here it looks like a great block. And it's not a bad block. He does a solid job of gaining leverage and working upfield. But then you put Lamb in there, and Lamb doesn't have that same movement from the right tackle spot. And then Brewer's guy is now able to make the play. So it's just one of those deals that, you change one piece. And, in the NFL, you're not often running through gaping holes. So if you change one piece that is now condensing that hole a little bit, it can make things look a lot worse, even though it's just one thing being a little different.
All right, one more play, and this goes over to the right tackle as well by Austin Jackson's sides, but you have a pretty much heavy set right here with Alec Ingold and Tyreek Hill in the pistol look. And Austin Jackson is able to clear off that lane along with Tyreek Hill and Durham Smythe.
Yeah, so this is a very similar play to that one that we saw earlier with
Big
Julian Hill
gaping
lining
hole.
up fullback. Yep. Yeah. Same idea. But obviously you can see that the hole here was much bigger than what it was this past week.
Yep, and that changes with the specific piece and the changing of the guard right there. You're able to rush successfully on first down. One thing I wanted to show you guys in the run game analytics right here. Passing and rushing efficiency from week 10 to week 14. Week 10 was, I believe, Tua's second game back from concussion. The Dolphins' passing game is 0.3 right here. And their rushing EPA per play is worse than negative 0.3. They're right here, way at the bottom, and how successful they are in rushing the ball and how efficient they are in running the ball. They're literally the worst team running the ball since week 10, since the second game of Tua's return. And if I go back one more week to week 9, 32nd worst. They are the best passing offense since week 9, but they are the worst rushing offense since Tua's return. And this is with 2 games of Austin Jackson. And so, Eric, once again, I know we had a change of pace. We took a look at the little things that they're missing in their run game. But I got to say, we're taking a look at these runs. They're trying their best to run the outside zone schemes, but they're also trying to run in between the tackles, in between Liam Eichenberg and Robert Jones. I keep circling back. Is this a play calling and situational issue with Mike McDaniel?
I think that's definitely part of it. I definitely think there's times that McDaniel tries to outsmart the guy on the other side when it's not necessary. But I also think that, they're still trying to figure out these new pieces. You've got Armstead, who, is in and out of the lineup. You're trying to figure out what works with Lamb, and I guess that Lamb's dealing with some injuries as well. You've also got the last 2 weeks, you've had 2 explosive runs that were called back due to penalty. Last week was the Ingold one, and the one before that was Tyreek Hill. And so I think that between the personnel and trying to find those play calls to adjust to the personnel, it's a multitude of little things that, hopefully as we get later into the season, they can settle on, some concepts that they're really confident in and that we can, run with a high percentage of success.
All right, so let's take a look at this Texans defense, specifically in the run game overall. Let me see if I can find the player and team. Houston versus New York right here. We can take a look at the Jets offense, which is a little bit similar as well. Let's take a look at the rushing on the outside tackles with no run stuff, and let's see how the Jets offense was. All right, here we go. Breece Hall, right tackle on the right side. Let's take a look at this first play right here. They're under center. They motion, right? They're motioning a wide receiver, for example. Let's say the Dolphins motion Tyreek Hill out. He snapped the ball. The linebackers are gaining traction. And this is pretty much the running back making do with what he can get on the blocks. The Jets offensive line does their job. They get their hands on their man, except for the left guard right here. He's trying his best. I think this is the left tackle, Morgan Moses. Another behemoth of a man. Similar physical profile to Patrick Paul as well, trying his best to move him. But you have a good enough hole right here. And Breece Hall cuts into the inside. And this is a successful running play right here. He gets 80% of the yards on first down. What do you see from the Texans defense right here, Eric?
Yeah, so I like the alignment that they're giving there. Looking at how far out that defensive end is, we know that the biggest issue with Kendall Lamb in the run game is his strength at the point of attack. So if they're going to give us a similar alignment, I think that's going to play to Kendall Lamb's strengths, that he can use his athleticism to get out there and wall that defensive end off. And then hopefully we can get a similar combination block on the front side defensive tackle there. That's definitely a look that if we get, I like our chances of being able to run outside zone against that.
All right, this is a 3rd and 1. Once again, bouncing out to the outside in the third quarter. 3rd and 1 play. Let's see if maybe the Dolphins could attempt to run here nearby the midfield, and if they try to do a crack toss type of play right here. Yep. See the toss. Running back bounces it inside, trying to get any type of yards. Successful rush play where he's able to get the first down on 3rd and 1. And we'll take a look at the Texans' defensive alignment and see if they do a little bit of a late shift right here. You have former Miami Dolphin manning the middle linebacker position, Neville Hewitt.
I did notice him in the lineup. It's been a long time since he was a Dolphin, but he's found his way to a
he's
solid.
more of a shoot the gap kind of guy. He's more of a downhill guy rather than a sideline to sideline type of guy. So this kind of favors where the Dolphins may want to run outside a little bit more to see if maybe Patrick Paul can loop around the guy instead of trying to move the guy inside. Let's see what happens here. Up, they're trying to loop around. He sees a hole. He bounces inside. Successful play on 3rd down, on 3rd and 1 specifically. Let's take a look and see if there was a late shift again. You have them not slanting. You have the deep interior defensive lineman trying to loop around.
I think in a lot of ways here, like the Texans defense here basically blocked themselves with number 96, number 5 basically stacked there. It makes it fairly easy to be able to combo on the outside to them. And once number 5 declares the outside, that's going to open up that cutback read. And the guard, I think it was, didn't get a great block there, but just by creating that vertical displacement or the horizontal displacement, you're able to create lanes at the running back and get some positive yards out of it.
And that bodes well for a guy like Devon Achane, who's able to get his long speed done. All right, under center once again. It's a toss. We'll take a look at the Texans' defensive alignment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They have a 5 front right there. And they're not even breaking the line of scrimmage that much, Eric, this defensive line. And let's see who they have on the field on what down and distance, 1st and 10. Let's see their personnel grouping. They have 3 defensive tackles. They don't even have Will Anderson here. They also don't have Daniel Hunter on the field either. They have Fatukasi, Hinch, Settle, Horton, and Barnett on 1st and 10. Like, this is an obvious run personnel package for the Texans defense right here.
Yeah, and when you get those defensive tackles inside, we've talked about this some with the Dolphins and some of those teams that try to take advantage of Brewer by putting that nose over him. And this is the kind of stuff that you end up opening up. If you decide to commit that you want to have 3 defensive tackles in there, you want to put a nose over Aaron Brewer, well, then you're taking a guy from somewhere else, whether it's the outside run defense or whether it's the pass coverage. And in that play, you can see that everything was kind of packed inside there, and it really opened something up to the outside. So that was a good job of the Jets of, taking what the defense is giving you there and not trying to just pound it up the middle, even though they're clogging it up in there.
All right, 2nd and 13 for Jacksonville up against this Houston defense. This is their personnel. They have Kurt Hinch, Mario Edwards, Will Anderson Jr., Danielle Hunter. Azeez Al-Shiar will not be playing up against the Dolphins right here.
Thank goodness.
Right. 2nd and 13. You have Will Anderson right here. You have Danielle Hunter as one of the 2 defensive tackles. It's a toss. Okay. You already have the defensive lineman breaking the line of scrimmage. So they have depth right here. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 guys nearby flowing over to the play. Let's see what happens. Danielle Hunter is able to win against his block right here, up against the wide receiver number 15.
And
I don't think that's a good idea if the Dolphins try to place Tyreek Hill and Malik Washington to block Daniel Hunter.
No, the Dolphins kind of ran into this issue fairly often early in the year when they were trying to run crack toss. They did it so well last year and kind of caught teams by surprise, but teams have really caught on to it. And we've seen way too many times that they've had the wide receiver there, especially Tyreek and Waddle, and they've just got blown up and not been able to get outside. They've used Malik Washington there, and he's been a little more effective than the other guys. And we've also seen Julian Hill and Alec Ingold used in that role as well. They actually ran the second most amount of crack toss this past week that they have all year.
Mm-hmm. And so if you're able to share your screen with this information, what has the rush concepts and the run concepts been like for the Dolphins the last week or the last 2 weeks with Kendall Lamb at the helm?
Yeah, so I can't actually share that one because it's actually on a separate computer that I have beside me. But, this past week they ran this second most duo that they've run the entire year.
How can they run duo with interior offensive linemen that don't have that type of power in their lower body?
They've been somewhat. It hasn't been that effective down at the goal line, but in more neutral situations, they've had some decent success with it. They ran their second least amount of outside zone run plays this week. They went from 10, 13, 9, and then this week their outside zone went down to 3. Now that was kind of offset by the 5 crack toss concepts that they ran. But outside of those 3 concepts, so your crack toss, your duo and inside zone, and your outside zone, everything else just kind of gets sprinkled in there where you get some long trap concepts. You get a reverse or 2 every week, and we've seen
I think
that.
they should run more trap concepts. That's what I feel like.
Yeah, they've had some success with those for sure, both in the power concepts where that guard is turning and leading up, and also the long trap concepts. They'd actually gotten away from the long trap for the past 4 weeks. I don't have them charted as running long trap at all, and they came back and ran it 2 times this past week.
So how do you think they're going to fare up against this Texans defensive front in the run game?
They seem to be getting further away from outside zone recently. Like I said, I don't know whether that is just that they don't have as much confidence in the experience of Paul and the ability of Lamb. That could be steering that. And if that's the case, then I expect to see more, duo and inside zone type runs again this week. I really think that the offense is going to thrive over the middle of the field like they have. I think that we talk about Neville Hewitt, and we know from this time here that pass coverage is not his strength. So if we can get him matched up and some of the other guys towards the middle of that pass defense, I really think that's going to be where Miami is able to live this week. And if they can get that going and get those linebackers sitting back a little bit, that could be where you go back to the run game and you're able to get some of those explosive runs because the linebackers are worried about, Jonnu Smith coming over the middle or Tyreek or Waddle hitting it down the seams, that type of thing.
Of course. Well, Eric, fantastic breakdowns in the run game. Stick with us here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network and the Scouting Combine, where we will continue to break down this run game, the offensive line, and even get into some of the defensive concepts with which the Dolphins have struggled on as well. We'll see how they will fare in the Texans game. We're all hoping that they continue this winning streak where they try to push for the playoffs. As always, y'all, go Fins.
Talk to you guys later.